So following on the economic development theme, which is important for Oakland, what do you think are the biggest hurdles or barriers to economic growth in Oakland? What is preventing it from potentially happening now and otherwise?
The story of taxes. The results of the Prop 13 tax and the recent events that have taken place in real estate and in the banking sector. Remember, the banking sector did not get reformed. What happened was the banks actually consolidated. There are less banks than there were before. The mortgages were not desecuritized, right? And we have a high foreclosure rate right now. We have also a phenomenon that takes place that everybody who buys in, thanks to Prop 13, pays at a higher rate. So there's a higher cost of money, and there's a higher cost of loans, and there's a higher cost of operations for people who invest. So what we have is people with large real estate portfolios that haven't been sold, who are renting them out or whatever, and they're doing fairly okay. But it's very expensive to set up something new here. So this goes to how do we actually structure our taxes as a whole? How do we compensate for this? And are we going to have a cash flow-based taxation system or a property assessment taxation system?
Let's see. What's the question? Could you repeat the question? Because it seems like the definition of economic development is a little.
So what are the greatest barriers? What are the hurdles?
I'd say the greatest barrier is that we're consistently on the 10 most violent cities list in the United States. And as much as people here, like our mayor, likes to point to us being on the 5 most best places in the world to have lunch, if you read that article, it was a real put-down, calling Oakland nitty, gritty, crime-ridden. Oh, it was a real backhanded compliment. That's the kind of thing when people are business people are deciding where to locate, where to start up. They look at crime. Their employees have to work late at night. They don't want to have to figure out if they need an armed escort to get them to bars. That's the big. You fix the crime, businesses will come.
Well, thank you. That's a very good question. Barriers to growth I would attribute to 2 things. One is an attitude, and I've run into it myself in the city, and that is people coming in to do economic development, to do projects, need an attitude of it's a privilege to do business here, jump through our hoops. This can be, and a couple of examples of this are the permitting process, both in zoning and in the construction department. The permits to do construction projects in Oakland are far more expensive than those in Emeryville. Take a look at Emeryville. It is booming, both in housing and in retail. We need to make sure that those departments are not making money at the expense of driving business away. And we need to be opening our arms to all new businesses and letting them know that we want them here very much and to show it. Again, Jerry Brown showed that it could be done. He said he'd go to 10K, didn't quite make it, but he got close.
Thank you. Well, I will agree that I think crime is a major thing that's keeping investment out of Oakland. I met with a small-scale infill developer, and I said, why is there so much happening in Berkeley and not here? And he said, there's a fog bank, Amy, and that fog bank has the word crime on it. With enough jurisdictions immediately proximate to Oakland, you can take your investment money and go somewhere else. It's just a safer bet. But secondly, I would really point to our process, which I alluded to in my previous answer. We have an unpredictable process. I talked with another developer, and she said, Amy, we should have inclusionary zoning. Just tell us about it, give us time to build it into our cost of our development, and we'll be happy to support it. We can't change our mind midstream. We have to set the rules and stick to the rules. And the final thing I'll add, the major barrier is we're not doing anything. We do not have a comprehensive, strategic, aggressive strategy to go out and land businesses. It's simply not happening in the city of Oakland. I looked as hard as I could to find the person who's doing it and who's responsible. It's not happening, and for anything to happen, we have to get up, go out, and get it.
Thank you, Amy. I think the three biggest barriers to attracting investors in this order are crime, having a divided city council, and having bad schools. Of course, with this having the highest murder rate and rate of violent crime in the state, nobody's going to want to locate here. Or a few, the most intrepid folks are going to be here. That's what we all are, the most intrepid folks. But we want others to join us. And then when you have a divided city council, investors don't have the certainty that the city is moving in the direction that they need it to move in. Our city needs to be united around a vision for our economic prosperity. We haven't done that yet. Investors need certainty. And that's why I'm excited for a new city council, because I think we're going to be a little bit more collaborative and be a little bit more able to unify around a plan. Finally, bad schools. Workforce is not going to want to locate here, so a business owner is going to have a hard time attracting his workforce if the schools are not great. So we need to obviously improve our schools, and we also need to think about creating career pathways between the school district, higher ed, and local industry.
Okay, I mean, you can hear this all night, that crime is one of the biggest impediments, but I want to change the focus now. I happen to think that we should start looking at Oakland for its strengths. And if I'm on the city council, I'm really trying to emphasize those strengths. And some of them have been mentioned tonight. Uptown Oakland, with its arts and entertainment, is picking up. And young people are coming here, and we have 5,000, 10,000 people on that first Friday, and that's pretty cool. And we can do more. But what we need to do is find a way to promote Oakland that isn't so fear-based. The young people that I talk to that come here and start businesses know that it's an edgy place. And they know that it's cheaper because of that. And they know the housing's cheaper. And they know they can start a business here. They just need a little help. So I want to change the focus on the positive. And even though crime is a problem, I want to turn it around and make that into a positive.
We do need to promote ourselves better. As soon as you asked the question, I wrote down two things: economic uncertainty and crime, as well as the negative perception that we have outside of us. So in terms of economic uncertainty, part of that, of course, is due to the national economic downturn, and investors are being very cautious all over the country, and Oakland is no different than that. But there are things that we can do. I just want to make sure that as we are trying to so-called simplify or provide more clarity and certainty in the process, let's not make sure we lose the importance of transparency and community involvement and in getting it right. The most important thing is get it right, even if it takes a little longer. Let's make sure we get it right, because we'll pay for it in the back end if we don't. 2, crime. I've talked about this over and over again. We need to invest heavily in anti-recidivism programs. Who commits the most crimes? People who committed crimes before. We must work with the county. We're the largest city in the county, the most crime in the county. We need to be involved in investing in high school education programs, job training. The best deterrent to crime is a good education and a pathway to a job. That will help change the environment here and promote more economic development.
Okay, we're going to switch up now and go to 30-second answers. And I realized that when I was thanking all the folks helping, I hadn't thanked Greg Brooks, who's running our time here. So Greg, thanks so much. And remember now, it's just 30 seconds, so tighten up those answers. And of course, I'm going to ask an audience question, which is loaded with information, will challenge your ability to comment, and it's going to start with Len. The question from the audience has to do with the police and fire retirement system, which is a public employee pension system that is only 38% funded. And I want to add a couple facts to that question. City employees now...
What was the question?
Police and fire retirement system.
That's a statement.
Well, the question is, how are you going to solve that debt-owned pension problem? I just want to add 1 or 2 facts on there. When it comes to other public employee pensions, I think the fire department contributes 13% to the cost of their own pensions. Police, for the first time this year...
That's a different pension.
Well, I know it's a different pension, but I'm going to broaden out not just how you solve peepers, but all of
30 seconds.
I didn't say it wasn't a challenge, but all these public employee pensions that are going to start to crowd out the ability of cities and other governments to pay for services. Take a stab at that.
Absolutely. The elephant in the room, and at all, whether it's in the mayoral debates or this, no one talks about the $2.5 billion of un- and underfunded liabilities that will hit us like a tsunami over the next several years. We have deferred maintenance on these roads, the ones your bicycle falls into and your cars break. We have, we have 400, I think it's up to about 500 million of unfunded post-retirement medical retirement benefits that not a penny is put aside even during the boom years, right? Hey, look, it's, nope, 30 seconds doesn't do it. I've written extensively on this in the Oakland Tribune. Thank you.
Yeah, this is probably the most difficult question of the night. Right now, we have a bond that is going to carry us over for about 4 years. When that bond, when the 2 other bonds expire, the funds are supposed to be diverted into paying off this bond and into funding the $427 million that PFERS is in the hole. That's the unfunded obligation. The city says it'll do it. If I'm on the city council, I will make sure they do.
The answer isn't one anyone's going to like, but it's pretty simple. We have to start paying the bill. We voted into office elected officials who signed on the dotted line. We have to start coming up with the money. I have an 18-month-old. I don't want to save for her college. It seems like forever until she's going to go there, but I do, because I know she's going to grow up and someday the bill is going to come due. So we have to meet those obligations, and we have to be more responsible in our future negotiations, and we have to hold our elected officials who sign on the dotted line accountable. The people currently in office in Oakland are those people, and yet we don't do that. And so it's a two-way street. It's between the elected officials and the unions. So the bottom line is we have to start paying it.
Yeah, I agree that we have to start paying it. First, I want to recognize that some of our police and fire and city employees have, in the last budget go-around, agreed to contribute more because of the growing recognition that this is a liability that we need to prepare for. So I want to recognize that and acknowledge that. But everyone else is right. Whatever revenue growth we have over the next few years, we have to be sure we set that aside for our future liabilities. We can't push this problem onto the next generation like our previous council did. And that's going to be a mighty task for us, but I think we're all committed to that.
I don't know. I'll tell you the truth. I don't know how we're going to come up with the money 4 years from now. I know we're going to have to. I know we have to start thinking about it now. I know it's going to involve negotiating with the public employees unions and the retirees. And but beyond that, I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't have an answer for what's going to happen 4 years from now. But I will tell you this, it is a serious problem. It's one of my top 4 issues, and I'll be dealing with it. And truthfully, there's a lawsuit going on right now regarding one of those retirement plans, and that would matter a little bit. But we need to keep fighting and figuring out what to do about this.
I agree with Don earlier. This is probably the most difficult question so far of the night. This old retirement system, which is back in the 60s, 70s, and so on. We have a huge unfunded liability there and a commitment, a contractual commitment. We need to pay into that. What I want to promote is that the establishment of a rainy day fund. I'm not the first person to mention that in the city, but it hasn't happened yet. San Francisco has a rainy day fund process as part of their budget, required as part of their budget process. It worked there. 10 years ago, my friend Tom Amiano, who's supporting my campaign, passed it. We need to do a broad-based rainy day fund that's well-designed and well-written for Oakland that will help us over the long term to solve that problem.
30 seconds. Well, yeah, we have to pay the bill. And we're going to have to negotiate that bill. And I want to say what I want us to move to. I want us to move to a system in which we pay our employees in full on payday. That when that payday happens and that check crosses from the city's desk to the city employee's pocket, that their pension, their health care, and everything that we promised them gets paid that day. And we don't create this for ourselves. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ken, for that. We're going to get one more question from the panel, from Greg Chan.